G'day everyone. It's hard to be up, isn't it, after a day like today? It's hard to be positive. Oh boy. Oh, that was a bit depressing, wasn't it, after watching that? I was all excited this morning thinking, you beauty, I was going to have an A7000 coming on board, but nothing. Nada. Nada. Oh boy. Oh well. So let's go over the chat and see who's here. Anyway, I'm going to have a bit of a chat with you guys. Let's make all of us fellow Sony people get, a bit more happy anyway. Oh, how depressing, honestly. So hi everyone. So who've we got in here? We've got SR Media is here. Christian saying hi as well. Brandon is saying hi. Dave says, yeah, we were all etched up and nothing to say. Dave says, text. Mirrorless says, likes. Reuven says, hey, David. Hi, Reuven. Dave says, Sony, we were all about equipping the creatives. Oh, no. What did we get out of that? The creatives, how about you give some new tech to the creatives? Do you know what? I watched that as well, and I heard them say that, and we got nada out of it. Oh, honestly. What else? James says, what happened? Nothing. CES was just on this morning and we got absolutely nothing out of it. Not even a quip, not a mention. What else have we got? Steve says, Nikon planned IAF and Sony bombs. Yikes. MPS says, just keep saving. That's the one positive out of this, isn't it? We're not spending any money. Kelly says, hello. G'day, Kelly. Conrad says, that was really sad. Yep. I haven't even had a beer. I should have a beer. It'll make me feel better. James said, hey. G'day, James. Michael says, hey, David. Samson says, hi. Barry said it was boring, if anything. It wasn't even really that good an announcement, was it, really? There was nothing really special about it. That's for sure. Chris said, hello, David. A good Corona day in Los Angeles. It's a good one here, too. It's 30 degrees Celsius. Rob says, it will come. Hi from Virginia. Yeah, it will. Just getting a bit depressing waiting, though. Richard said, hi, David. Josh is saying, how's it going? We've got a couple of minutes before we're starting, guys, and then so this is just pre-show. Let me just bring up a pre-show thing there. Josh said, how's it going? As well, Richard said, hi, David. Nive said, good afternoon. We're actually expecting a new camera announcement at CES. Well, we were hoping, that's for sure. Mr. Mary said, what happened with Sony? Nothing. Oscar said, what did I miss? I'm having a Stellos. I should be having a Stellos with you as well, but I'm wedding editing. I want to make sure that the images look good. Philip said, David, good evening. Went out to the local wildlife reserve, got some nice shots. Definitely need to upgrade to a real zoom lens, though. Thinking of the Sigma 150 to 600 with the MC11. I'd love to try that combination, actually. It's not that expensive either. MPH says, not yet. Logan says, hey. Jason said, what did they say? Absolutely nothing, Jason. I'll show you in a minute what was announced. Lowell says, at least they mentioned the A9. Now, Lowell, I missed that. Was that mentioned with the video? Was that the part that they mentioned? Just answer me in the quick chat. Was that mentioning they were using... Cause someone mentioned, I think it was Gerald said, they mentioned about using the video for the A9 for video. Hart says, hey, everyone. Jerry says, coming after CES, why make an announcement at CES when you can get more press after CES with a big announcement? Philip said, I'm sure they will announce something tomorrow. Not sure if they're announcing a camera, though. There is a Sony Alpha event. Well, there's still rumours that there's that announcement in January, but I don't know anymore. What else? Brandon says, what's the event in 10 days? That is a possibility. Well, there is an announcement. I'll discuss that in a minute with you, Brandon. Sony, our only hope is mid-January announcement. Chris says 8K TVs and self-driving everything. Yep. Hero says, greetings, it's coffee time. G'day, Fanamiak. David said, hello, David, how are you? MPH says Photo Plus Expo New York City, October 24th, 26. Better not be that long. Yes, they mentioned during video. Yep. Now, I might talk about that in a minute, which is interesting. Sony had PlayStation E3 conference. It doesn't surprise me. Photomix says CES is really not a place for camera talk, so I'm not surprised it was a bust. Yeah, probably right, Photomix. Did they announce a PlayStation 5? Not yet, I don't think. Media hype, waste of time. David said, I am DeBrown says, all that talk about 8K sensors just to release 8K TVs. Guess it's the chicken comes before the egg. And that's one of the interesting things, isn't it? It was announced, and I'm going to talk about that in a second too, because I think it's obviously with that announcement, the 8K is going to come. But anyway, I'll mention that in a second once we get to the show in properly. How are we going for time? So it is just about 8:30 now. So bear with me. I'm just going to switch over to the Oastler Images sign and we'll start the show. G'day everyone. Got over the snooze fest that I had. I started to watch it and nearly fell asleep. Certainly nothing for us as Sony shooters in camera. They did mention their creatives, but we got absolutely nada out of it, which was a bit disappointing. Now, there is meant to be an announcement. Sony have apparently got an announcement in 10 days, and that is probably the only spot where we will get a camera announcement up until NAB. So please keep your fingers crossed that something is announced at that Sony press event in 10 days. There's got to be a reason why they call that. So let's wait and see. There is also a Sony Alpha event on, I think, now, I believe. So whether something's going to be announced there, I wouldn't picture it as being announced separately, though, from CES. I would have thought if they were going to announce anything that soon, it would have been announced today. But anyway, we'll wait and see. But there is apparently a mid-January event, so we're about 10 days away from that. So keep your fingers crossed for that. Just thought I'd show you a couple of things that I've got. Before we start the show, you know that I've bought the Pocket camera. But I wanted to show the ND filters that have come because they're so cool how they connect. I thought I'd show you this. Because the NDs I got, I think they're, what were they, Freewell, the ND filters that I purchased. They come in a little kit like this. I only bought the 4-pack. There is an 8-pack that comes out. But the great thing is on the back of these, I've got little magnets on the back of them. And all you do to connect it is just to touch it onto, let me see if I can get this in focus. You just touch it onto the end and it locks on. You just have to make sure it's straight when it goes on, but fantastic. And it doesn't seem to affect the balance of the camera at all. So now I'll be able to use NDs when I'm shooting some film out there as well. So that's really cool. So I can't wait to try that. It comes with a little circular polarizer as well. That's what that little red one is, and apparently you just spin that little red dial around to get the polarizing effect coming in. So that's good. I can't, like I said, I can't wait to try that out. What else did I get? Oh yeah, one of the other things that I got too was this. Now I'm dying to give this a go. I told you that I ordered it. So I did order the MC11 and it came yesterday. I haven't got any lenses to attach to it yet though. I really am looking forward to trying to get some Canon or Sigma lenses in the coming days. I did update the firmware to the latest firmware yesterday, so it is ready to go. And I'd love, look, I'm doing a shoot on Thursday, and if anyone wants to join me that have some decent Canon lenses, the only thing is it's going to be in Dalesford amongst some lavender. If anyone has, or even some Sigma lenses, if you could pop along and I could try them and do a review of them on the day, that would be fantastic. I'd love to try the Canon 85 1.2. Don't know whether I'd get that anywhere, but I'd also love if anyone does have the Sigma, they can be the Canon mount because that is the Canon MC11, or they could be obviously these Sony ones. If you wanted to join me on the day and I can use a couple of lenses, let me know and contact me if you are interested in doing that. If not, in the coming days I'll try in the coming, next few weeks, I'll see if I can get some Canon lenses to sort of adapt and try it for you. Also, the Sigma lenses, I'd love to try that as well. So I'm excited about getting it. At least now I have that in my bag in case if anyone does have some Canon gear that I can adapt and just see how it works. So if anyone is interested in doing that with me, let me know in the comment box down below, or just email me. So there are a couple of new things that I've got today. Let me just go over to the chat before we start. Most people are just saying hello and how boring the CES announcement was, and I'm going to talk about that in a second and what Sony has announced. I am DeBrown said, haha, all that talk about 8K sensors just to release 8K TVs, and I'll mention that in a second. And a few people are saying this, that actually CES is not the place to show off camera and lenses, and that probably is the same. Floria said, my life is ruined. I love it. Trev said, I think Sony is being usually coy at this point. It's wearing thin. They are, I know, and it's interesting why they are being like this. I'm not quite certain why. Carl said, a show on Tuesday. Yeah, I just thought I'd talk about the announcement, Carl, just because it's been on. And we were talking not long ago about the A7000 could potentially be announced here. So I thought I'd pop on Tuesday. I'll still be here Friday for the normal Sony news and rumours. What else have we got? Photomix says, remember Sony never made a big deal about 8K sensors. The Sony blogs did. Sony knows you can't put the cart before the horse. What else have we got? Jerry said, you're right, Dave. CES is the egg. The chicken will hatch in 2 weeks. Photomix, I expect to hear something big at WWPA or at NAB. What else? Mark said, hello, I'm DeBrown. You are right about that, Photomic. Punk said, Sony is the worst, trying to get us all to bail them out of their recent bad purchases in intellectual property. Not sure what that means. Stephen says, Japanese tech has been way behind for about 20 years. I don't know, the Japanese tech seems to be really good. Trev said, wow, stabilized sensor, something should show that to Canon. Magnetic filters. Yeah, they're magnetic, Brandon. How cool are they? Cliff said, hello. G'day, Cliff. Trev said, the MC11 is the bee's knees. I stopped using all my adapted lenses once I bought it. I know, I'm dying to try it. I really can't wait. What else we got? James Brown said, hi, David. David said, good to see you. I'm DeBrown. Casper said, hello. Comrade said, funny, I was on a maternity shoot with twins. Her water broke and I got in to pack up and get home just in time for the announcement. Was so excited to watch the live. 2 busts in 2 hours. I love it. Dave says the GM24, GM still not available. I don't think it'll be there until February, I heard Dave. Jerry said, I use my MC11 on my A6500 and the A7 III with my Sigma 18-300 and the Sigma 150-600 works great on the A7 III. I'm really good on the A6500. Yeah, I'm dying to try it out. Can't wait to get some lenses and then review it for you guys. David said, just been working too much. Haven't had any time for any photo shoots. Brandon says, why show up to the event if there isn't anything new going? Well, there is. It's Brandon, the things that they've offered is something else, and I'll talk about that in a minute. CES is not normally a place for camera announcements. It's a consumer electrics show. NAB is usually one that happens, and the other camera shows during the year. Sony have also got an announcement in 10 days, I believe. There is they have called a well, they haven't said it's cameras either, but they have called a briefing in 10 days' time. So let's see what happens. David said, where is all the fancy Christmas huts? Mark said, I'm selling all my Sony gear now and buying Nike. Yeah. Is that meant to be Nikon? That's funny. Now let's just go over to what was announced today. I'm just going to go here first story. Because I'll show you what Sony have announced. Now, they've announced today, basically, all it is TVs and some audio stuff that's being announced, really. So we've got 8K TVs, there's OLED TVs, things like that have been announced. Soundbars, wireless speakers, home audio systems, turntables have been announced. Now, The interesting thing is that the 8K apparently is sort of showing up everywhere at CES, and this is why. This is one reason why I do believe 8K is definitely coming, and I don't think there's anything, no doubt about that it's coming. And remember, the Olympics are 2020, which is next year. So I think as these things start to come out, other devices start to support it. Now, what I'm worried about is this announcement that's in 10 days' time, maybe a new 8K camcorder. You don't know. It might not necessarily be the A7000 or the A7S3. We don't know yet at this stage. If they don't announce a camera at that announcement in 10 days, I've got a feeling we're not going to hear anything until NAB. And what that is, whether that's the A7000 or the A7S3, we don't know. It's going to be really interesting. Like, I am getting frustrated like you guys, though, with what Sony are doing at this stage. And the reason why I'm saying that is because there's been such great announcements from Fuji, particularly with their XT3, which is definitely, like I said to you, better than what Sony have got available at the moment. And also the Panasonic announcement. At least Panasonic have been more upfront and clear about what's, well, not fully clear, but at least they've given you things about what the camera will have. And I'm going to talk about that shortly because I think that's quite interesting. And I'm not certain whether that's the reason why Sony are holding back, due to the fact of what Panasonic are going to announce as their full release or the full specs when it comes out. They've only given us hints at this stage, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Also, Canon have announced that, well, there's rumours that their next full-frame camera is also going to come out very, very soon as well. So we don't know what that may be. And are Sony trying to hold back to see what is sort of announced there? But I'm not sure if it's the right strategy, really, because a lot of people may get impatient and then they may... Now, Panasonic have announced... Well, let's look at that anyway. Let's just jump over to Panasonic because I'd like to show you that. Let me just quit mail. Panasonic have announced in here that... well, let's look at the rumours so far, what as sort of we think is true. That, and I'll put a video up about this the other day, but I'm going to discuss it again with you because this is live. They're saying it's going to have contrast AF DFD technology. Well, I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, unless they improve it quite substantially over what the GH5 has. I'm not convinced that that's going to be anything like what the Sonys have, for instance, or even Nikon. So it's going to be interesting what that gives us. Now, deep learning AI is something that is really interesting, and I wanted to stop at that point because if we click on this next post that was just announced, or that this was talked about at CES yesterday, I think, or this, yeah, I think it was yesterday, or early this morning, I can't remember. But they have said down here that a couple of things have been announced. High dynamic range still photo. So this is the AI that they're talking about. It's HLG photo mode. So this is really interesting because this could be the future of the way things are going to go. And basically what this is going to do, it's going to capture a number of images and then stack them together to give you like a high dynamic range image, similar to what the HLG does in video. This is going to get better and better though. Now remember, this is really only available if you're viewing on screen. But they've sort of announced that this is going to be available in the Lumix S cameras. Precise color expression as close as possible to visual reality or visual memory. So this is really interesting. And I think this is probably the way it's going to go. And I'll talk about that in a minute. They're also saying down here that there's high resolution mode, taking advantage of the image body stabilization. They're going to grab 8 images, I believe, of high-res images, and then they're going to be stacked together to make this amazing high-res scene, which is going to be incredible. So it looks like it's taken it further than what the Sony cameras are. And again, this is probably going to be possible due to the fact that the Panasonics do have amazing stabilization. So it's going to be interesting to see how many stops of stabilization you get with this as against the Micro Four Thirds camera. So the AI side of things is going to be really amazing. And I'm going to go back to the specs of the Panasonic in a second, but if you look at that, it's clear that Panasonic are really pushing the AI on this. And I think that's what Sony have hinted at before when they were mentioning the AI, the animal AI being available. But I think this is going to be the future. Remember, print, I suppose people hate to say this, but print will definitely in the future be used less and less. Children particularly now are just used to looking at their images on their iPhone, on their iPads, and on screens. And the only place you can view these HLV images are actually on, or HLG I should say, are actually on these digital devices. And so further on down the track, that's going to become more and more important. And I know, purists are going to hate me saying that, but I think it's just a fact. I don't sell anywhere near the prints that I did sell years ago. A lot of people now are just happy to buy the images digitally and view them on the screen. Unfortunately, I still think the prints are more beautiful, but when you're looking at HLG photos, it's going to be incredible to see that dynamic range that you're going to get, and you're only going to be able to see that on the screen. And I have put videos on before that I think the future particularly is more about going towards AI. And if you look at the way the iPhone exposes in broad daylight, how you can get the clouds, and if you are backlighting a subject and the subject is still exposed because it's grabbing multiple images together, this is going to be incredible technology. And I suppose this is one thing that the cameras have to go to. And it looks to me like Panasonic are really going to go after that market, and I'm hoping Sony do as well. So this is really interesting, and I think this is definitely the future. The high resolution mode also would be amazing if you're doing landscapes and things like that. So that's talking about the AI, but let's continue before I open up the Q&A. Let's just go back to, where were we? Let's just go back to here, these specifications. So what else are they saying? It's got dual IBIS, so it's going to have body IBIS, image stabilization, and also lens stabilization. Now, if that's anything like the GH5 stabilization, it's going to be incredible. I'm not confident it will be as good as that, though, due to the fact that the micro four thirds sensor is so small. The full frame obviously is way bigger, so I wouldn't expect it to be like a GH5 stabilization. Please make me wrong on that, because it would be incredible if you could handhold this full frame camera like you can with the GH5 when you put it on tripod mode. Will be just incredible. And I do hope that's the case, but I'm not convinced that would be the case. It's having high precision, high speed shutter, higher speed sync flash, large resolution EVF. They're saying close to human vision. So they haven't said what that is yet, but that might be as good as what Sony's 5.7 million dot EVF is going to be, and it has a 3-axis tiltable screen. So it looks like they're not going to have fully articulating screen, which is a real bit of a disappointment. They did have a petition about that, but it looks like it's probably too late and it hasn't been able to be put in. They are going to have double slots. Now, it's going to have QXD and one SD card slot. So, again, that's a fantastic feature. They've knocked Nikon and they've knocked the Panasonic, then Canon out of the water due to the fact that they've put those dual card slots in there. So that's really amazing. And I think that's one thing where Nikon and Canon let their users down completely and totally by not putting those dual card slots. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them kick ass of Nikon and the Canon due to the fact of that alone. A couple of things. This has got image stabilization, body stabilization, which the Canon hasn't got. There's no crop on this, which the Canon does a 1.8 crop. The Nikon has no crop, but it doesn't have dual cards, and the focus is terrible. Now, I'm not saying, when I say the Nikon's terrible, it's not good in low light. It really does hunt. I don't know how this focus is going to be, though, due to the fact that it's got contrast AF detection, but it's going to be interesting. The body looks like it's going to be amazing. It's a new mount. It's got full water resisting. It says 100% sealing, and if this is anything like the GH5 water sealing, which I suppose it will be, I had 100% confidence with the weather sealing on that. It's going to have two variations. It says 47 megapixel and 24 megapixel. And it's also same resistance against low temperatures. Like I said, the only thing we're going to have to wait and see on at this stage is the AF. We're not sure how the AF is going to be. But the interesting thing that's saying here is, it says here, where did I read this? I read somewhere, here, it says that the Lumix full-frame mirrorless cameras and lenses will be available at the end of March 2019. So that's the interesting thing. Now, I want to open it up to comments now because I wanted to see what you guys have to say about all this. But before we open it up to the comments, there's a couple of things here that worry me a little bit, and I'm hoping Sony don't leave too long to answer these. Like I said, the XT3 needs to be answered. Sony need to answer that, and I'm not sure why they're taking so long to do that. I would have expected that camera to already be developed. That camera now is reasonably old, the A6500. What are we, 2 years, I think? And the XT3 has clearly beaten it. So that's interesting, and I can't understand why Sony are taking so long. So I'm hoping that's announced at the in 10 days' time when they have that announcement, middle of January. I'm hoping that's the A7000, so keep your fingers crossed for that. But full frame worries me a little bit because Panasonic particularly, now they're saying that that's going to be available by March. I think they're going to open up pre-orders very, very soon. So it's interesting scenario. So Sony probably don't want to wait too long, because if this meets every demand that's out there and Sony keep putting off the A7S3 announcement, people may just jump ship. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens here if they just don't announce anything at all and nothing comes out. The Panasonic may hurt them a little bit. So I'm surprised Sony is taking so long really to give us any information or feed us any amount of, give us any idea about what's going on in the future. That's interesting. But let's open it up to the chat, because I'd love to know what you guys are thinking about this. Are you disappointed with that nothing was announced today? Do you think that the A7000 will be announced in 10 days' time at that so-called Sony announcement or media briefing that's been put out? And do you then believe the next announcement for the A7S3 is going to be at NAB? So let me know what you're thinking. I'm going to open up the chat to see what people have to say. Steve's just saying greetings. Really appreciate you guys. If you could give me a thumbs up, that would be fantastic too. Graf Mill says, yes, the MC11 works great for me. I was just saying before, in case if no one is coming in late, I've just bought the MC11. I'm doing an amazing shoot on Friday. Let me just go back full screen because I'll just explain what I'm doing, because there might be someone available. I'm doing an amazing shoot on Friday where I'm shooting amongst this incredible lavender. It's gorgeous, this location in Daylesford. I've been given complete access to this place. Normally you have to pay $200 or $300 an hour, I can't remember. It's very expensive to get in there, but I've been given complete access from 6 p.m. in the afternoon. No one else is going to be there. I've got 6 girls coming with me, I think. 6 girls. They're going to be shooting. Kiara's going to be there. And I'm going to be photographing them and filming them on the day at this location. We're going to be there for around about 3 hours until the sun goes down, basically. Now, because I've got the MC11, if anyone is interested and has some Canon gear or Sigma gear, Sigma lenses like the 105 or something like that, and they want to come for the day with me and I can try those lenses out, please contact me on the mail by email. And I'll see if we can get together and you can come along, and if I can, I'll use the lenses and review it for people as well. That's one reason why I wanted to start my Patreon, because I've mentioned before that I want to try and get enough money in that I can go and hire lenses and things like that for you to give reviews. As an Australian, we don't have B&H and these other companies that will lend you gear. So all the money I earn through the Patreon channel is going to go towards lenses and things like that. So that's what that's going to be doing, and reviewing stuff. If you don't like Patreon, because there's a couple of issues with Patreon at the moment, I know there's a bit of politics going on. I have put a link down below where you can purchase the same thing through my website via your credit card. So you don't even have to go through Patreon or PayPal if you don't want to go that way. Anyway, you don't have to do that, but I just wanted to mention it. Now, let's keep going down in the chat. So if anyone is interested in that, anyway, contact me, and you can, as long as you can come up to Daylesford, I'd love to have you there. Graph Mill says, yes, the MC11 works fine for me. Atalia said, very disappointed they have 10 days. Yeah, I know. Let's hope something's announced then. Trevor said, in 10 days, Sony will officially announce that they are working on a successor for the A7S2. Oh, by the way, I wanted to mention this too, that I noticed, and this was pointed out to me by Gerald, and I've talked to you guys about this a lot, that I believe the A9 still has the best video that Sony produces. And it was interesting in the announcement today, they mentioned that they used the A9 and the A7S2 as part of their videoing of, I believe, their advertisements and stuff like that, all the cinematography. And this is what I've pointed out to you before, that I do believe that the A9, and that's why I love using the A9, even though it's my favorite for stills as well. Whenever I'm doing video, like the Wedding Fusion video things and stuff like that, I use the A9 for video because I can't beat it. I just adore the way that that works for video. I love it. I love the standard profile on it. The focus is just incredible. And it's 6K downsampled. It's the only camera that Sony have, any camera that's complete full frame and without any cropping at all. And I just adore it. And it's fantastic. And I noticed Sony mentioned that this morning this afternoon in their announcement that they actually made. And that was really interesting because I've been saying that for ages. Huss says, when's David's live stream is more entertaining? Mark Frost said, yep, see that 95 8K. Wow, they already are going big right from the get-go. 95 inches at 8K. Trev said, frankly, I think the A7 III is doing far better than they expected, and they're milking those sales for all it's worth. Yeah, the interesting thing though is, I had an email sent to me today. It was the first time I've seen one where a camera store offered the A7 III with a $200 card sent to you. Now, it's not from Sony. It's actually from that camera store. That's the first time I've seen that. But I agree with you. They're obviously still selling like hotcakes. But they don't want to wait too long. They really don't want to wait too long. Brandon says, is it just a move of them feeling they don't have to announce something because they feel they're ahead of the game for mirrorless? Well, I think that's a bit short-sighted, Brandon. They're definitely not ahead of the game in the APS-C side. Definitely not. And if when that Panasonic comes out, I think they're going to be behind the game, apart from focus, I think they're going to be behind the game probably with full frame as well, with what that has to offer. So it's going to be interesting. They don't want to leave it too long. Also, if that is a Sigma lens, sensor in that, those Sigma sensors when they were out in the previous camera were amazing. So don't discount the sensor either. How about those Nikon announcements? I didn't even see what Nikon announced, AP. Lowell says, my prediction is they will skip the A7S III and call it an A9S. Because they highlighted the A9 for its awesome video. Yeah, and it's like I've said to you, Lol, it really is, and that's why I do believe they never ever put the picture profiles in there. Because if they did, that camera would have been unstoppable, and that's the reason why I do believe that the picture profiles have never been put in the A9. Some people didn't believe me when I said that I believe that is the best video camera that Sony have, and I still believe it. I've got the A7 III and I use the A9, and I love, there's just something about that full frame look of the A9 that I just adore over the A7 III, and it really is the most beautiful video that I've seen. And I like I said, people didn't believe me, but I think if you'd used it like I have, you would understand what I'm saying. Bill said, Canon fans in 2022, who needs 8K? Graffy Mill says, were you expecting camera announcements? Well, I was certainly hoping. Yes, that would have been an odd place to drop the A7000 or the A7S III. It would hardly get the press it would deserve. Be patient, Grasshopper. I love it. Trev said, HLG on Panasonic is brilliant. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they bring out with that. Oslo said, hey there, David. G'day. Michael's here as well. G'day, Michael. Brandon says, Dave, not really a camera announcement, but a tease would have been fine. It's a trailer, basically, to lead up to what has to come. And that's why I'm saying, it would have been good even if they did tease us with something. Yeah, like Panasonic have done. B&B Films says, do you think that it's going to be a time limit? Yes, there will be. They're not going to pay that premium until that finishes. And I'm not sure. I think it was sometime later this year. I believe they could have taken that off because I think Europe has stopped that from being an issue. Now, whether they give that as a firmware update, I wouldn't bet on it. You might find that some new cameras that come out later this year won't have that time limit anymore because Europe apparently is stopping that time limit. It's just a tax, I believe, that you've got to pay. Basically, the tax means if it's not a camcorder, you have to pay the tax. Hamish says, Sony sells lenses and camera division to Tamron and makes cutbacks. Don't know what that means, Hamish. I haven't heard about that. Kevin said, anyone has any experience with the Sony a7 III and the Sigma MC11 adapter with a Canon 70-200 lens? No, I haven't yet, but I'd love to try it. Mark said the CES presentation with the Lumix was really super fast. The camera was shown 5 seconds and was taken away again. The details were missing in the presentation, which they omitted heaps. Michael says the Sony presentation for a photographer was like watching a bad movie. I love it. It was, I know. I didn't watch the whole thing. I got bored. Where were we? Vikings said, I want to see a live streaming built for easy hookup to YouTube, Facebook, etc. Yeah, they still haven't really got an easy solution to that yet, unless you know what you're really doing. Terry said, Nikon is introducing a bunch of goodies for the Z system as we speak. Cool. I have to have a look at that later. A new lens, IAF, and video stuff. Very cool updates for the new Z cameras. That's great, Terry. I really hope that's great because that camera, like I said, apart from that weak, and perhaps they can fix that with firmware, the autofocus in low light was a letdown when I used it, and also the dual, well, you can't fix a dual card slot, so it still wouldn't work for me. But I hope the people that have got that camera, yeah, they do announce some really great things. Terry says, oh, I've already read that. B&B Film says, I hope not, laugh out loud. Mark says, that's something, he's talking to someone else. Terry says, the new Nikon IAF might mean better AF in general. Yeah, let's hope so, Terry. Like I said to you all, I love competition and I want everyone to succeed. So I really do hope that they nut all that out. Long Rider said, Sony and Fuji in cahoots. Haas said, David, I believe that in the last couple of months, users have started pulling out videos of other brands and this can hurt Sony. Well, this is what worries me, Haas. Like, the longer they wait, people may just give up. Now, remember, the A7S2 was announced, I can't remember how long ago. Like, the A7S2 has been out for so long that if the Panasonic hits the ball out of the park and Sony don't announce something, people may jump over. I mean, I love the GH5. I love the look of the GH5. I loved everything about that camera. The stabilization was incredible, apart from the fact that the autofocus sucked. And this is the thing that I've said to you. You'd have to wait to see what the autofocus is like in that camera, because if it's the same as what the GH5 is, I wouldn't be confident about it beating Sony. But we have to wait and see. They might have done something special with that camera. Let's keep going down. But it is going to hurt them unless Sony, like I said, the XT3 probably will hurt Sony if they don't announce something soon, because it is a much better system. Like, that is a much better system than what Sony have got. So if you were just looking for an for APS-C camera, I would probably say buy the XT3. It's a much better camera overall than what Sony are offering. And that's the thing, it will eventually hurt them. Now, they may still be selling a lot of the A6, we don't know the full amount that they're selling, but Sony do have to be a bit ahead of the game, I believe, and they don't want to wait too long. Eagerly waiting for the A7S3 too, so am I. Exactly. B&B Film says 10-bit 60 frames per second. Well, we don't know yet what that's... Are you talking about the Panasonic? I think it was 10-bit 60 frames per second. Atalia says, I am getting upset. I don't want to buy something now, then having something I wanted to be announced a couple of weeks later. I hope we learn something in 10 days. Yeah, a lot of people are hanging out too. You wouldn't believe the number of people that keep saying to me they're ready to purchase now. And this is the problem with how secretive everything is. And I suppose I can understand it from Sony's point of view because they want people to keep buying. If they said we're going to announce something in 3 months, then Sony wouldn't make any sales. And it is tough. If you need something, it's really hard because I know it'll be like when I bought my, the RX100 and then they announced the camera the day after. It is a bit of a problem. So it's tough for people that are ready to jump over. Sung says, hey David, do you think Sony will release a 50mm G Master? No, I don't think so. I think probably something wider will be announced next. That's what I'm hoping anyway. The couple of G Masters that I think will come out, there'll be a 135 will be the next G Master announcement. And then I'm hoping that there's a 35 1.8 because a lot of people have been asking for that, but that won't be a G Master. It'll be a cheaper version of the 35. But if it's as good as the 85 1.8, it's going to be a stellar lens. And then I'm hoping they bring out something wider. Now, the 24 has just been announced. So I'm hoping they bring out something in that 12 to 14 area. That would be brilliant if they brought out a G Master there. But I think the next G Master we'll see will be the 135mm. Trev said Panasonic use H.265 very well in their GH5 for their 6K anamorphic mode. I could see them extending that to the S1 to enable 10-bit recording. Dave said, grats, no worries, Dave. Mark said, darn shame, lenses for MC11. I have the 85 and 70-200 Canon as well as the 135 and the 150 to Sigma. Yeah, you're not down here, Mark, are you, though? I know it would have been great if you could have popped along. B&B Film said, true. Terry said, Nikon Z camera's doing RAW videos now just announced. Oh, so it's going to do RAW, is it? Wow, that's amazing. They are adding some great features to that. Good on Nikon. I really think that's amazing, and that is fantastic. And you know what? This is one thing where Sony sucks, is the fact of the amount of updates they give us by firmware. They are terrible with what they give us. Like if Nikon have added all of that in firmware, that's fantastic for the Nikon users out there, and I hope Sony is listening to that and they start to give something back to the users that have already purchased their cameras. And it probably wouldn't have hurt if Sony are taking so long to announce these cameras that they've got, to give us some firmware updates to enable some other features that are there, or to update the camera, put the time lapse in there or something to keep people happy while they're waiting. And that's fantastic, Terry, if Nikon have done that. And I'm so happy for the Nikon users. Hero says, anyone here selling an LA EA3 adapter? Norak said, yes, it was a disappointment. It was. I wanted to see the A7000 so bad. So did I. The thing too with me is I need another video camera, and I do need another video for how I shoot, which is Fusion, a hybrid shooter, a mix of stills and video at the same time. So I need another video camera. Now, I'm not sure whether I get an A7000 or the A7S3. In fact, I'll probably wait to see what both have to offer before I jump in and then just purchase one. I don't need another one at the moment. I don't need another 2 cameras. But I'm like you guys, I'm waiting too to see what's announced. Blaze King said, Sony cracked themselves when the Fuji X-T3 came out. They scrapped their design and started again. Heard this from a Sony engineer on the dark web. Not sure if that's right, Blaze, but you never know. Michael said, the reason why Sony held back the picture profiles in the A9 is because if they did not buy another camera, I would not buy another camera. Okay, yeah, and I think you're right. If they did, I would just buy another A9. And that's the thing, and I'm starting to think that too. I am starting to believe that they held that off, which is not good, especially when you look at what Nikon are just announcing for their firmware for the Z series cameras. Sony should have given us picture profiles on that camera. They said early on, they hinted that they were going to, and it's never happened. Again, I think that would have been fantastic. But yeah, you're probably right. Ken said, do you think the autofocus for video is better on the A9? Yep. Yeah, I do, Ken. Well, it's just faster. It's a better processor. It's just a faster system. Look, you can't compare the two cameras, Ken. I don't think people understand how much of a better camera the A9 is than the A7 III. You've got to understand that they're totally different sensors. The readout on that sensor is just amazing. It's an incredible camera, and I don't think people give the A9 enough respect. I really don't. It's, what is it now, nearly 2 years old, and there's nothing out there that can compete with it still. That's why I don't think Sony have been in any hurry to update that camera. We probably won't see another A9 until next year for the Olympics. It's just incredible. It's an amazing camera. Yes, there is a difference. It's not where you go, wow, that's amazing, but it is there. I can tell the difference. Norax said, so when do you think they will make an announcement for the A7000? Well, I'm hoping in 10 days' time. That's what I'm hoping. Scott said, do you think they might add picture profiles to the next A9 as a selling point? I don't know, Scott. I really don't. Because this is the issue, like I'm saying, if the A9 is as good now as it is, and if they added picture profiles in that would be unbelievable, that camera. I'm lucky, though, because I don't use picture profiles anyway. I just use the standard profile, and I love the look that I get. I just expose correctly, and I adore the look that gives me. Less editing, stuff like that. I can understand if you're a videographer that you need it, but for me, I'm totally comfortable with what I can get with the standard profile. That's even on the A7 III as well. They may, but I wouldn't count on it. Dante said, do you think that the new Sony cameras will have a HEV, a new codec? Well, I think they have to. I mean, we're hoping that we get something like Venice. We may get something like Venice. We don't know yet. This is the problem. Sony aren't giving anything away at all. You know, we may get a new Kodak. You know, we might get Venice for better color. We just don't know. But we'd have to say that you're going to get 4K 60p at least. The sensors may have the 8K sensor in them. It doesn't mean we'll get 8K. It might be 8K downsampled to 6K. We don't know yet what they're going to do. Thomas says, greetings from North Carolina. Just received my basic Sony kit, A7 III, the 35 1.4, 55 1.8, and the 85 1.8, and the 70 to 200G. That's fantastic. Wow, thanks, David, for your suggestions. Well, you've certainly got a great setup there. Like I said, as a kit, what a fantastic setup you've got now. All you really need now is a wide angle and you're set to go. Michael said, Scott Dance, man, I just got a warm, fuzzy feeling when you asked that. Nikon said, no Sony Xperia phones announced. Oh, by the way, too, after this video has gone up, I am going to put up a video with the new camera remote that I did the other day. The apps are now available, and I'm going to put up a video showing those apps in a minute. Delta Dave said, or it might be up tomorrow morning, I'm not sure. Delta Dave says, A7 III will come out as soon as the 30-minute limitation on video disappears. Yeah, I'm not sure when that was. I know that was this year sometime, Dave. That will happen. Europe has taken that off, apparently, that limitation. So, but then you'd think it would only be a firmware update. They could release it and then just use a firmware update to take that limit off as well. James said, no surprise Sony has lots of... Hey to CES was not the place for a camera. A lot still to come in 2019. Brett said, don't be disappointed. Sony will give way more than you think. Brett says, be patient. I'm shocking though. Oh, that's Siri coming in. I'm shocking though. I'm like everyone else. So the problem is, Brett, people are waiting to get a new camera and they just don't know what to do. This is it. They'll go and buy a new camera and then Sony announce a new one. This is the problem. And it probably will start to hurt them because people are going to start holding off. This is the issue. Thomas said the best camera is the one released 5 days after you buy yours. I know, it's so true. Well, that happened to me. Hero says, buying a Sony is fine choice if you need a great camera right now. Hart said, David, you are right about the X-T3 being better than the Sony APS-C lineup. Regarding the S1 and the S1R, don't remember them having a tiltable screen. It says a 3-axis screen. It looked more like Fuji's portrait mode, unless I missed it. Well, I don't think they've really showed it that much, Haz, so not sure. Trevor says, raw video for the Nikon Z line, no way. I'll have to look at those reviews after what Nikon have announced. Like I said, I haven't seen what they've announced. Ron says, damn, too bad Nikon Z camera only has 1 card slot. Exactly. What a stupid move that was with Nikon. Crazy. BNGR says, Sony is taking on the bad habits of Canon and Nikon. Oastler says, this is what happened with Nikon. Raw video support. Nikon is currently developing a feature that works with the Atmos Ninja V to output raw video in RAW format using the ProRes RAW codec. That's fantastic if you need that. Videographers would love that. Norad says, what event is going on? Well, apparently Sony have called a press event in 10 days' time. So we're hoping that's the A7000. Michael says, Sony firmware update consists of improvements to overall stability of the camera. I know. Sony definitely have to... Look, the thing is, guys, and I have to say this, remember, I'm not... I'm totally neutral because I'm not sponsored by anyone, and I just say the truth as it is. Sony are not good. I know they've added some things sometimes, but Sony are not good at their firmware updates. They're nowhere near what you'll get from... Fuji, who add amazing features. Panasonic add amazing features. When I had the GH5, they added incredible features via firmware. It looks like the Nikon are adding some fantastic ones for their Z cameras now. Canon are no good either. They've been terrible with firmware updates as well. Sony tend to just give you very minimal things, and as Michael has said, they'll give you something that says improve the overall stability of the camera. They don't give you much in firmware. That may need to change, Sony, if you listen to this, because other brands are giving you way more in their firmware, and I think you really should look after the people that have purchased your cameras. What else have we got? Well, Wendell says, good night from Brazil, my brother. Sony launched a new Xperia... He's talking about what they launched, I suppose. Yet he said, you all need to focus on content creation rather than wondering when the next camera is coming. A7 III or A6000 owner along with Sony native lenses. I can understand what you're saying, Yeti, but this is gear focus. We're all gearheads here. You know, if you don't like talking about the gear side of stuff, it's probably, you shouldn't be watching these videos probably. Because I do count myself as an artist, and I've talked about that all before, but there's nothing wrong with wanting gear as well. It doesn't make you a better artist. It doesn't make you a better artist, but I love gear, and I'm honest about that, and I'll admit it every single time. And I do need another camera, and I don't want to buy a camera now and then have a new one come out in 10 days' time. That's the problem. Is the A7000 out already? No, it's not. They've announced nothing at all. So, yeah, bit of a pity. So is there any other questions, guys? I'm just a little bit disappointed nothing was announced. I think they probably could have given a hint for you guys or all of us. Perhaps, you know, a little sneak peek or something, and then not announced anything more. I mean, I don't know whether Sony obviously don't work that way. We can still hope that Sony announce something in 10 days' time in that press briefing or announcement that they've got. It was middle January. I can't remember the exact date, but I believe someone was saying 10 days' time. So I'm hoping they do announce an A7000 there. I still think the place that the A7S III is going to be announced is NAB. I do believe that's probably what's going to happen. There will be, as that's that video-centric type show, that's probably the place where you would want to announce something like an A7S III. Peter said, I'm thinking to attach OSMO Pocket to my A7 III for fusion coverage on weddings. Yeah, that's interesting, Peter. You get some nice coverage with that. And you could keep recording all the time. That's not bad at all. The other thing I'm thinking about doing is attaching it when there is the bracket that comes out now. You could attach it onto your chest and just have it sticking out the front and record everything that's going on as you're going around. That's also a possibility. Yeah, and you could attach it to a camera as well. It's light enough to do it that way, and that would be an interesting thing to do. Yeti says, nothing hitting bro, love your shows. Thank you so much, Yeti. Jeshwin said, where are Xperia smartphones? Don't know, I haven't heard of that at all. Even said, time-lapse available now on the app you talked about the other day. Yes, and I'm going to show that in a review. I've recorded that at all. Even, did you get that to work on the A7 III? Because I couldn't get it to show up on my A7 III. Let me know what camera you use that on. It worked on the A7R2 and it was amazing, but I couldn't get the time-lapse app to show up on the A7 III. So let me know if it was the A7 III. Even, I'd love to know that. Inspired said, I remember in 2016 Sony only announced flagship LED TVs 2 weeks before it's released in the first quarter of the year. So there's always hope, I guess. Yeah, and you're right, there might be. Oastler says, when are you planning on posting a video of this upcoming video shoot you have? Which you're talking about the one I'm doing on Friday? Probably some of it will post next week. I'll be doing some of it, and it'll because it's going to be such a big shoot. I'll probably post it over a couple of weeks. I would say 2 or 3 weeks. Marge said, David, have a problem with camera remote and A9. What's your problem, Marge? I'd love to know. I haven't used it on the A9 yet, so I can't say what's happening with that. Camera remote, though, what I've noticed is all the features. Wait till I put up the video. I'll show you. It's amazing. I can't wait till that works for the A7 III. If Simon can get it to work for that, and I'm sure it's only bugs at this stage, and I talk about that in the video, it's going to be outstanding. I couldn't get the features to work in my A7 III at this stage, though. The problem is Simon has only got an A7 II at this stage, so he's only developed the software for that. He did say that he's going to try and develop it as soon as he can for the A7 III and the other cameras that are out there. What else have we got? So Marge, I'm not sure. Let me know. I haven't used it on the A9 yet. Video Photo said, which camera is better, RX100 VA or the RX100 V? It depends what you want. I didn't upgrade to the V1 because I wanted the ND filter, and I also wanted the 1.8 aperture. I don't need that long zoom lens, so I'm quite comfortable with the V. That's why I did have the option to go back in, because I bought it and it was replaced the day after. I could have taken it back and changed it, but because I used the that RX100V for video of me, I wanted the ND filter, but I believe the VA has now taken the apps out. See, the thing with this is, I can still use all the Play Memories hacks in this. So I can use the no time limit hack. I can use the time lapse and things like that, which I think I'm right. I believe they were taken out with the VA version. So if that's correct, you'd have to work out whether you'd like the ND filter and the 1.8 aperture, or whether you'd love to go for the zoom. It depends. I kept the V because it had the Play Memories apps, and it also had the 1.8 aperture and the ND filter. James says, how is the little DJI working out? Well, James, I have to be honest, I haven't used it since the review I did that I put up the other day. I'll probably use it a bit on the shoot on Friday when we go up and do this shoot up at Dalesford in this gorgeous lavender fields. It's going to be stunning. Can't wait to share it with you guys. Regarding the new apps, I can't pronounce it. Is Gustavo, is it? Regarding the new apps, I did download, try very shortly, just connected and did one shoot. I even bought it. Question, can it focus touching the cell phone screen? Well, it can on the A7R too, and I've showed that. Sony does something, they've done something to not allow that anymore, and I don't know why Sony has taken that ability out. It doesn't make sense to me when you've got a touch screen. I really don't understand Sony's thinking there, and it's a bit silly. I really don't understand. And it works perfectly on the A7R2, and I'll show you that when I upload the video. Yeti said, neither could I on the cam. Yep, so it must be an issue with the A7 III and the A9 with that firmware. I think that's the issue. We're going to have to wait until Simon updates the software. It will come, but you just have to wait for it to be supported. The only thing you can do if you have purchased it, and I've mentioned that in the video, is you can report these things to Simon. So let him know that it's not working. I certainly will let him know. What else have we got? Let me just go back, because I thought I saw something about Camera Conspiracies here too. Wanted to thank, this is the first live show I think I've done since Camera Conspiracies mentioned me online. Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it. I had a stack of likes actually from that video, so thank you so much. I know he watches. He's not here today, but I know he watches. The angry photographer has become a Sony artisan of imagery. The new features are not available, drops connection. Yeah, you're going to have to wait for firmware. He did say to me, he sent me an email this morning, and he said there's going to be a 1.1 update coming within a week or so, or a couple of weeks. I think Apple take time to put these updates up. So it will be improved over time. Remember, it's just been released. I think as time goes on, and I'm not paid by him, I think as time goes on, it will get better and better. The only thing he did send me, like I said, I'm always honest to you guys. And the funny thing was, I did the review before I even knew about him. I did that initial review that I put on about it, and he thanked me for that initial review. And he gave me a code that lets me have all of those updates for free, so that I could do, well, he didn't say another review, so he said, so you can have a look at them. So I did use the code, and it let me use those updates, and that's how I've just done the review of it that I did a few minutes ago. I'll either post it today or I'll post it first thing tomorrow morning. So he did send that to me, but he's certainly, you know, I'm getting no money from him or anything like that, or to promote it. I think the app looks really great. I can't wait to see where he takes that app. The problem is, I think he said he only had the money at the time to purchase the A7 II, or that's all he had. I think he was hoping to use the funds that he got from the app to purchase something like an A7 III or something like that, and then he developed the software for those cameras as well. So you can report that they're not working, and obviously he'll do updates to make it work for that as well. So I do have to say, give him time. You can just use the free app though if you're waiting in the meantime. And then you can message him through the App Store and ask, is it working yet for those other cameras? And then obviously when it's working, you can purchase the other updates. But wait, it's really good. The updates are really nice. Wait till you see how it works when I post that video coming up. And dropping the connection, he did say that update, yeah, that was going to be in the update for dropping that connection, Marge. So just wait, be patient. It will get better as time goes on. Michael said, do you think the lack of permanent price reductions on existing models over the holiday speaks to nothing coming out in the first? Well, it does worry me, but I suppose they're selling stuff so well at this stage that they don't have to reduce the prices. So, you know, I wouldn't be too worried about that. They're selling bucket loads of this stuff. That's why nothing's dropped. I heard someone, and someone may be able to help me in the chat. Someone mentioned somewhere, and I haven't heard anything or read anything. Someone mentioned earlier, I can't remember where I even saw it, that the Tamron 28 to 75 was getting more expensive. Has anyone heard that? Or has anyone heard an announcement about that somewhere? I'd love someone to comment on that. What else have we got here? Michael said, hanging in there, David. It's coming and it will be good, I think. Sony just didn't push to move at this very second, but I think they'll drop something this year, and in the meantime you have lots of gear, buddy. Yep, true, Michael. I shouldn't be so depressed. Any news on fully articulating screen? No, I don't even think it's going to happen. Yeti says, never mind, I had to purchase. Features was unavailable earlier, but it is now. Looking forward to the time lapse. Yep. Well, it certainly will work if you have something like the A7 II. the A7R2, because I've used it this morning and I've done the video on that and it works amazingly. Even touch to focus works fantastic, and it probably will work on the A6500 as well if you have that camera. Michael said, Carl, I would be on the floor if that happened. Not sure what that meant. There were leaks and rumours of Xperia XT3. Okay. MJ says, having connectivity problems on Camrote on my A7 III. Any thoughts? Yeah, just wait for the update. Like I said, it will get better, MJ. I know the connection, though, from what I've used so far, is that it's fine if the app's there, but if you close it or if it goes to sleep, you have to reconnect. And that's one of the problems. I'm not sure whether that's that or whether it's just the Apple software, the way it works. But as long as I leave the app open, it doesn't disconnect. Brian says, so they showed Sony cameras, especially A7S, for 10 minutes and had no announcement. Yeah, they showed the A7S and the A9 or discussed that being used for videos. No news at all about the A6700. Evan says, come on, everyone. David is a bloody legend. Thanks, Evan. Let's get those likes up for him and support the man we all watch. Thanks so much, buddy. Ray says, expect lenses from Zeiss and Tamron. Well, I'm still hoping that Tamron bring out a 70-200 this year. I'm sure that's going to happen. I'll be surprised if it doesn't. Mars says, I'll wait for the update. Yeah. Brett says, be nice to have that app for Android. Yeah, well, the thing, Brett, is he said that he just doesn't know how to code for Android, and that's his problem. He says, I have no idea how to do it. So it's not that he didn't want to do it, it's just that he doesn't know how to do it, and that's the issue. Michael said, David, the angry photographer, did some test in his basement, Fuji, and he found what was the electronic shutter freezers up in cold, dark basements. It froze, did it? I haven't seen that. And he found was the electronic shutter freezers up. Oh, you're just making a joke. Brett says, I heard that the A9 gone up in price too. Well, I believe that cheap price was only limited to a certain period of time. Yeah, I think it's finished. CL says that Tamron was $879 at B&H. It was $799 during the holidays. Yeah. Someone mentioned to me somewhere today that it went up. Yeah. It's true about the Tamron. There you go. So Joel says it's true about the Tamron. I work in a retail store and that lens is $879.99 now. So it's gone up roughly, well, not quite $100. Yeah, so it has gone up. Ray said, yes, saw today on Amazon the Tamron, 28 to 75, 900, and on B&H it's 879. Wow, interesting. Brett said, bummer. JP said, I was watching to the end in shock, but there was no announcement. Yeah, I know, it's pretty sad, isn't it? It is pretty sad. All right, guys, that's about it. Stay tuned. I am going to put up in a minute. I'm just seeing if you can still fire away. I will talk, answer the questions. Stay tuned for that video I'm going to post for Cam Remote. I'll put that up. It might be today or tomorrow, first thing. I will put that up. It seems to be really good. I've got all those extra apps working now, so you can have a look at how they work. And that, I think you'll find it's really nice. I just hope it works, like I said, when it gets to that stage on the A7 III and the A9, it'll be amazing. I just report the non-working tap screen to focus, and I did ask if it's possible to use IAF from the phone. I also say you told me to do him email. Yeah, that's fine. I'm not sure whether it's going to be possible, though, about that tap screen, because no app does it at this stage on the A7 III. It's something with Sony. I don't know what they did to stop that. So it's going to be interesting, and I'm not sure why. So whether some developers can contact Sony and ask for that feature to be enabled in the firmware, there should be no reason why it's not. It's really annoying when I can do that on my A7 II. Again, that's another reason why I won't sell my A7R2. Have you encountered on the A7 III with silent shutter and banding? Yeah, Yeti, I don't use the A7 III. Yes, I have. I don't use it. I've got the A9. I'm lucky enough that I have that. I don't trust it. The only time I'd use the A7 III on silent shutter is in daylight. Under any artificial light, I wouldn't trust it, particularly if it's a paid job, because sometimes you can't see it till you get home. That's a problem. So I wouldn't trust it. Plus, you can get rolling shutter. So if the image is still or not moving much at all in good daylight conditions, the silent shutter does work well. If it's under artificial light, not trustworthy. And if anything's moving, it's not trustworthy either. You need an A9 to do that. Fathom Rocker said, thanks for the video, David. Don't worry, we will get both the A7000 and the A7S soon enough. Cheers, mate. Yeti says, yes, it was indoors. Yep. All right, guys. Catch you all soon. I'll see you in the next video. Have a great evening for the rest of you. And I'll see you all soon for the next video. Bye for now. Don't forget Friday, we've got the live Sony News and Rumours and Alpha show. If you can, love to see you join Patreon. I've set up a website now, a Facebook page where that is solely for you guys. I'll be showing my retouching, things like that on there. Just some extras that you won't see anywhere else. I will be giving full tutorials on how I retouch images and stuff like that, and also doing some extra live shoots. It won't change anything though how the channel runs now, so that's there. If you don't like Patreon, you can subscribe directly through PayPal. If you don't like PayPal, you can buy directly through my website using your credit cards, and I'd love to see you join us. Apart from that, guys, see you all soon in the next video. Bye for now, guys. Catch you all soon.